Hi, Dave Ross with Ross Running. We've got two distance finals coming up tomorrow, Tokyo time, in the evening. First of all, the women's 5,000 is going to go off around 9:30 p.m. local time. Conditions are going to be about the same as they have been the last couple of days. We're expecting something around 81 to 82 degrees Fahrenheit, but high humidity. So we're expecting a real field temperature of something like 95 to 98 degrees Fahrenheit. Not exactly favorable conditions for distance racing. And this is going to make that weather a factor in how this race plays out. World records are one thing in favorable conditions on fast tracks, but if you're running in conditions like this, you're going to see something like 15 to 30 seconds slower for most distance races. A 5K, I'm guessing about 15 seconds slower, and in a 10K, I would say something like 30 seconds slower than you would see in better weather conditions. So that's going to play out quite a bit here in how these races unfold. In the 5,000, I'm expecting you're going to see probably a slower first 8 laps, so 3,200 meters. And then I think things are going to wind up in that last 1,600 meters. You may see something like a really quick 8 to 1,200 last 8 to 1,200 meters. And then again, a huge closing finish. That's going to be a factor. All the kickers, the folks who have good 1,500 meter speed at shorter distances, those are the folks who are going to be factors in this sort of a championship race. World record holders, not so much. It's one thing if you can run 14:10 to 14:15 under ideal conditions, but off a slower pace, you're going to need to have that championship gear to be a medalist in a race like this. So let's go into the favorites. We saw the 1,500 prelims today, and Sifan Hassan took a fall with about 390 meters to go, got up and still won her heat. Is that going to be a factor for her? I spoke to her coach, and he basically said that she is not injured and she felt unaffected by the fall. We'll see what happens. You know, adrenaline can make a big difference in how you get up and respond during a race. We'll see what happens in the 12 hours between the 1,500 prelim and the 5,000 meter final. So I'm still picking Sifan Hassan to win. I think she's got that closing gear at 5 and 10,000 meters. That's going to be the big factor here. I don't think anybody else can close like she can, including the existing world record holders. Second place, I'm going to go ahead and go with Helen Obiri of Kenya. She also is a really great closer, but again, I just don't think she can match Sifan when push comes to shove. Third place, I'm going to go with Gudaf Segay. She has 3:57 1,500 meter speed to her credentials, and I think that's going to be a factor in how she closes the race. How are the Americans going to do? We've got two in the race, in Elise Cranny and then Carissa Schweitzer. Again, I think Carissa Schweitzer is the type of individual who would benefit off a faster pace. Cranny's got that closing gear that she's got better 1,500 meter credentials, and I think that's going to be a factor here. I would expect Cranny to be somewhere between 5th and 7th, and Carissa to be somewhere between 7th and 10th, which I think would be a really great experience for both of them. But again, in this kind of championship race, it depends on how quick it's going to be. I think we're ultimately going to end up seeing something in the 14:35 to 14:40 range for finishing time. Cranny's never run that fast. Obviously, Carissa's run much quicker, around 14:26. But again, off a fast pace versus a slow pace, how you can close is a huge difference in how it plays out. The other factor that we're going to see is again, the weather and tactics. If somebody decides to go out hard and make this a 14:20 race, which I don't think they're going to do in the weather, you could see a different way that this unfolds. But again, the conditions are going to be a detriment to running a fast pace. The other final that we're going to see is the men's steeplechase. And so we're missing a couple of guys who've been big factors in international championships, in Concelsus Caputo and then Ezekiel Kemboy. Without those guys, you know, in the Kenyan dominance, I think we're going to see a totally different change in the lineup and some different medalists. So in this one, I'm picking El Bakali from Morocco. He's got a 7:58 steeplechase to his credit, one of the few sub-8 guys in the field. Actually, I think the only sub-8 competitor in this race. And then I'm picking Girma from Ethiopia for second. He's run 8:01, but has also run around 3:33 for 1,500 meters. And then in third, I'm picking Benjamin Keegan of Kenya. He's run 8:05. I think based on what we saw in the prelims, weather's not going to be as big of a factor here. We saw some sub 8:10 races in the prelims. Weather's, again, going to be a little bit of a factor, but I still think we're going to see something in the low 8s, probably an 8:03 to 8:05 race. And it just depends on who's willing to take out the pace and then who can close off that pace. Obviously, if you're going to go with an 8:15, 8:20 race, a slow pace, you're going to leave a lot more guys in the field, some of who have some pretty potent closing kicks, and that's definitely going to be a factor in how things would play out. But I think we're going to see a faster pace race and something around 8:05 or maybe even a little bit quicker. Might see some personal bests. Looks like a fast track, and some folks have found the ability to ignore the conditions and still run quick. So those are my picks for the 2 distance races coming up. It's been a great Olympics so far, and we'll catch you again for the next race.